I'm Dr. Christine Cooper, and I'm a senior lecturer at Curtin University in Perth in Western Australia. I'm a comparative and environmental physiologist. I work mostly on birds and mammals, and I'm interested in their energy, water, and their thermal balance. Numbats are really specialised marsupials, so they belong to their own family, but they are most closely related to the dasyurid marsupials, which are the carnivorous marsupials. So things like Tasmanian devils and dunnarts and quolls. They are really different to most of those animals, though, in that they are only active through the day. So they're the only marsupial to be exclusively diurnal. And they also only eat termites. So they have some physiological and anatomical adaptations related to their termite diet. So they have a really long, thin tongue, their teeth are very reduced, they have a long nose and big salivary glands so that they can lick up their termites with their sticky tongue. And they eat about 22,000 termites every day. Yeah, so numbats are diurnal for a couple of reasons. Firstly, their termites are active close to the soil surface during the daytime. So numbats are pretty small. They're less than 500 grams, so like a big lab rat in size, and they're not very powerful. So they can't access termites when they're in termite mounds. They have to wait till the termites are moving around under the soil in little galleries, and then they dig them up from there. And the termites are active there during the day when the thermal conditions are favourable. So the numbats also have to be active during the day. And being active during the day also allows them to exploit solar radiation for thermal heat balance. So a termite diet is not very good energetically, and therefore being able to use heat from the sun helps them to maintain their energy balance because they don't have to use as much metabolic heat to stay warm. So numbats can't be trapped because they eat termites. They're not interested in going to a trap for any bait. So the way to find them is you drive really slowly, about 7k an hour, around the tracks. And I did my work at Endangered woodland. So around the tracks in the woodland until you spot a numbat, and then we have a thermal imaging camera with a telephoto lens. So then we would jump out and film that animal foraging, and at the same time we would use a little portable weather station to measure the environmental conditions. So once we had those data, we would go back and analyse the surface temperature from different areas of the animal from those thermal images, and then relate that to the environmental conditions that we measured at the same time. And we could then use that to build heat balance models to look at avenues of heat loss and gain. We were able to thermally image numbats, and then by measuring their surface temperature, build some heat balance models. And we found that when environmental temperatures exceeded a wet bulb globe temperature of about 23 degrees, which is equivalent to an ambient temperature of around about 40 degrees, the numbats would only have 10 minutes in the sun before they would overheat. If they are forced to move earlier and later in the day, that is more likely to bring them into overlap with other more nocturnal types of predators, which they're not adapted to dealing with. And it's also an issue if we want to consider reintroducing numbats into parts of their historical range that are more in the arid zone where it is hotter and drier. So numbats used to be found all across southern Australia, but with European introduction of foxes and feral cats and changing land use and changing fire regimes, numbats have been restricted only into the southwest of Western Australia. And as we try and mitigate some of the threats in their habitat and move them back into the more arid, hot parts of their original distribution, climate change may now mean that those areas are not so suitable for them anymore. They're doing better than they have been. They are considered to be endangered, but with feral fox and cat control programs in their natural habitats, they're probably getting up to maybe over 1,000 individuals now. So they still are not numerous. They're more endangered than most of the sort of traditionally threatened species that we think of, but they are doing better than they have done for a very long time because we've been able to implement effective predator control mechanisms. I've never wanted to do anything else than be a zoologist. So it's something I've always wanted to do. I've always been really interested in animals and I enjoy being outside in the natural environment. And therefore, it was an obvious career choice. So I studied zoology at university, went on to do a PhD. I actually studied Numbats for my PhD. And then I was really interested in the diversity of different species. So being a comparative physiologist lets me work on a whole range of different species and ask lots of questions about how they survive in their natural environment.